I really appreciate that because I think we often forget that is that the side of truth will win out. Um, Not just because God's decreed it to be that way, but because truth is always stronger than a lie. It's almost like that whole
Absolutely.
thing of the higher ground. Fighting from high
Yes.
ground gives you the advantage. Speaking the truth gives you
Mm.
the advantage. And you just see it with so many of the current ideologies that are being pushed out there in the world is they've become so complex because it's a lie and you're having to like build
Mm.
this whole structure around a lie that can never win. It's a self-destructive um, position.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. And sometimes people want to separate faith from logic and reason, when in fact you cannot divorce logic and reason from truth, from faith. The ground and basis for logic and reason is God Himself. If there isn't an absolute objective standard that we can appeal to, what's the basis upon which we can even determine whether something is logical, whether something is reasonable?
Yeah.
Um, the reason we can say 1 + 1 = 2 is because it corresponds to reality. If there was another answer, that would be a lie, and that lie could be catastrophic. If you get your consequence to lies, and the opposite is also true. There's always fruit that is born from truth. Um, Truth is life. Truth is fruitful. Truth is victorious. Lies are inevitably going to lose.
Yeah.
Lies are inevitably going to destroy. And I think that's something we need to remind ourselves of, even as we speak the truth, and remembering that um, truth has no formidable foe. Truth has no formidable enemies. God has no formidable enemies. And I think if we remember that, it would inspire us to do a lot more for the truth.
Yeah. And I mean, Romans 1 speaks so clearly about people's suppression of the truth. So a lot of the time when we're speaking, sort of gospel truth, if we're speaking that high level, there is a knowledge of that truth which is being suppressed. So
Mm.
we're appealing to something which is there. That it's being recognized. It just is being suppressed. Um, I would just say, unfortunately, obviously, we're not always speaking about such fundamental things. Sometimes we're speaking about one opinion over another. So you and I might disagree over something, and I know you're a truth-loving brother, and
Mm.
so you know that I
Yeah,
am, and yet there's probably going to
right.
be things where we're going to have a difference of opinion, but still being willing, I
Mm.
think, to speak about your convictions is a manly trait because the fact is if you are just going to cave to whatever you think is going to please the other person, that really is
Right.
cowardly. And at the end of the day, since we are both committed to truth, that means that probably one of our opinions is more aligned with the truth than the other, and
Mm.
we're not going to be sharpening one another as iron sharpens iron if we aren't willing to speak what we believe to be true. And where I'm getting with this is,
Absolutely.
I think we all know that there's times when we're wrong. And
Mm.
I think sometimes that can be a hindrance to speaking the truth when it comes to matters of opinion
Mm.
because we're worried we're going to be wrong. But I just think that that's what community is all about. That's what fellowship is about. Is
Yes.
as we are willing to actually be honest with one another about how we feel, in the course of that, I may realize that my position isn't strong, and then I can change.
Exactly.
And the wonderful thing about Christian fellowship is that you are going to extend grace to me such that you're now not going to write me off because I was wrong on one thing and I've now had to change my stance. So yeah, all of that to just say,
Yeah.
I think we shouldn't be scared to be mistaken or to be proven wrong. You should
Yes.
still speak the truth, and that's
Yes.
going to help you at the end of the day to align yourself better with reality, as you were saying earlier.
No, you're absolutely right. Spot on. I think God in His grace has given us one another in order to refine our understanding of the truth, in order to believe the truth. You know, many of us don't know what we really believe until what we believe is tested.
Yeah.
And we don't always know the strength of our beliefs until that's tested as well. And in God's grace, I think He gives us one another to test that. And I think that testing is part of what God uses to refine us. And where it's proved that our arguments, our convictions are wrong, we ought to concede to that and recognizing, okay, truth is what I must be submitted to. God is who I must be submitted to. And therefore, since it's been clearly displayed that what I thought about this was wrong, I must submit to that. And there's something else you said that was so important, Anton, which is sort of the overarching theme here is the idea that men ought to be truth tellers. When you think about what a man is for, a man is strong, a man ought to be wise, a man ought to be responsible. A man is a builder, he's a protector, he's a provider of his church, of his home, of his community. That in order to do that, that requires a man who knows what the truth is, and a man who's not willing to simply treat truth as an academic exercise, but a man who's willing to live in accordance with truth, a man who's willing to wield that truth to bear fruit in everything. And so truth telling is a manly thing. And where you see the lies of the world corrupting communities, churches, and homes, we can almost always trace that back to a man who does not know the truth or live by the truth. A man who failed to speak the truth when he should have. Right? That reminds us of Adam. He failed to speak the truth when he should have, allowing his wife to be corrupted and deceived by the words of Satan. And that's where it all goes wrong. It was unmanly of Adam to do that. And as men, we must learn from that and recognize that if we fail to be those who know the truth and are speaking the truth and are living in accordance with the truth, we are in fact complicit in the schemes of God's enemies. And that's something we need to be aware of with a sense of, and that's something we should be profoundly aware of. If we miss that, we're in trouble.